Well, hey there, this is Everett O'Keefe with Ignite Press, and today we have an unusual live cast. We're going to talk about two guys hunting, bullets, bonds, and memories from the Alaskan wilderness. And I have the two guys with me here today. Well, not with me, I mean, with me virtually. They are tuning in live from Alaska, and we're going to have some fun today. I'm really excited about it. Now, so my name's Everett O'Keefe. I'm the founder of Ignite Press. And here at Ignite Press, we specialize in helping people take their messages to the world, whether those be serious, earth-shattering messages or fun, lighthearted messages like we're going to be talking about today. And if you have been working on a book, or even if you've got one done and or just thought about a book, and you want to have a conversation, reach out to me at ignitepress.us. That's it. That's ignitepress.us. Once there's a button. You can click it and you can schedule a call directly with me so we can talk about your idea for a book and particularly what it might do for your brand or your business. Now, by the way, as we go through the call today, if you have comments, put them in the chat log. If you have questions, put them in the chat log. I will try to bring them in front of Stan and Steve as our time goes forward. So here, I'm going to bring the guys on. Stan and Steve. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Great. I'm Stan. He's Steve.
It helps. I mean, you even got the labels right on the there on your names there. So fantastic. So Stan and Steve, thank you guys for joining me from Alaska. And this whole project's been fun. And you guys have been a blast to work with. So we've got this book that you guys have written, Two Guys Hunting. I'm going to guess the two guys are you, and we're going to share some of your hunting experiences. I've got you guys sitting on the float of that plane here now. So why don't we do this?
Your insight serves you well.
It's amazing. I've been given credit for that. So Stan, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about who you are and just a little bit of your background, and maybe when did you start hunting?
Oh, sure. I actually am going through some photographs at home right now, trying to chronicle my life for the kids, and found some photographs of me fishing when I was 3, ice fishing in eastern Washington state. But I killed my first big game animal at the age of 12, which is the youngest you can get a hunting license in the state of Washington, which is when we lived there. So I've been hunting my entire life. My dad was big on that and got me out in the snow when it was, I was freezing and complaining and whining like kids do. And then ended up, developing a love for the sport and the harvest of the game, and ended up continuing to do it for the rest of my life. And I'm still a hunter.
I love it. Well, Steve, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your background and when did you start hunting and fishing?
Well, seriously hunting and fishing was when I was in my late teens, early 20s, when I came to Alaska. And my folks were up here for like 6 months, and they had to go back because my grandparents had taken ill. And they said, "Are you staying?" I said, "I am definitely staying." I went to the Russian River and caught my first 3 salmon in about an hour, and I got hooked. And so here I am, 60 years later.
My goodness. Now, people go hunting all the time. They don't always write books. And so what inspired you guys to put together what is now this book, Two Guys Hunting?
Well, I think it probably is just conversation that started the idea, but we have people go hunting all the time, as you pointed out. Not a lot of people have the string of success that we have had together. And it's one of the things I stressed in the book, I think, too, that, we each bring a certain chemistry to a hunt. And so for 23 years, we kept track. 23 years, every time we were together, we were successful in getting at least one animal we were after. And when you think about a lot of hunting stories, people just talk about going on armed four-wheeler rides or armed hikes in the woods and never see what they're after. But for 20
always the one that got away as well, right?
Yeah, for 23 years, we always got something. And I think was a lot of the catalyst that a lot of our friends wanted to hear the stories. And so we decided to memorialize it. And it's kind of a legacy move for the family. We wanted them to have the stories that they could relate back to before we got too old and cranky to remember them.
So, Steve, whose idea was it first to start putting this into a book?
Well, it was kind of a mutual understanding, and we were kicking ourselves in the butt because we hadn't written down a lot of this information over the years. And we said, well, let's, start putting it together and see what we can come up with. And then it just took us a while to remember all the stories and tell all the stories. And it's been basically because of my buddy here, doing most of the legwork. I remembered some of the stories. He remembered most of them. And it's been absolutely wonderful.
And how many years have you guys been hunting and fishing together?
35.
35 years. How'd you meet, by the way?
I was working at Sears, and Stan's dad got promoted to Sears in Anchorage. And that's when I first met him. But after that, I became an Allstate agent, and Stan's dad was the department manager of the automotive department, and we were in the automotive department selling insurance. And then, Stan got crazy and said, I want to become an Allstate agent. So
actually, you have to go back to the timing on it. He is so much older than I am. When we first met, I was just a kid in school. So, the friendship didn't develop until later. And after I was hired by the company, we ended up actually it was his 40th surprise birthday party. So it hasn't been quite 35 years or not. Oh, yeah, you are getting 30. Yeah, it has been 30. So it was his 40th birthday party that we knew each other to be a hunter, but we said, kind of got to shooting the breeze and said, well, let's try this. And so we planned our first trip together then.
All right. Hey, I guess I had to do some business here. I should tell everybody the book is for sale right now. It's on Amazon, where you can get it both in paperback or Kindle. And actually, there's a special running right now, a launch special on the Kindle where you can get it for $1.99. We would definitely encourage you to do that. And by the way, this is a fantastic gift book. If you know anyone who is into hunting or fishing, they are going to love this. So please consider getting this as a gift for others. Well, all right. So I promised that we'd be getting into some stories and things like this. So let's start with, I'm trying to remember, because this was early on, Stan, when we first started talking. And I think you shared a story with me where I think you guys just got plumb lost. Yeah, can you tell us, that may have been many times, by the way, but there was one particular time that I remember came up. Can you tell us about that? And I think there's a poem that came about from that, but
yeah, you're right. There is a poem, and we have only been plumb lost just the one time.
Wow.
And the interesting part about that is it came about because of a GPS. They were brand new at the time, and Steve bought one and brought it with us on a moose hunt out in Dillingham, Alaska, which is in the western part of the state, way out on the coast, a long ways from any metropolitan areas. And And so he bought this crazy GPS, but he hadn't worked with how to do anything with it. We were studying the instructions the very first day we got there. And feel free to just chime in here, fella, anytime you want. So a gray, nasty day flying in, and usually an air taxi service will circle an area or something and show us kind of the lay of the land. You know, they're not a guide, but they'll at least give us a view of what's going on. And this particular story's in the book, so I won't elaborate on what happened there. But we just got dumped out of the lake and really no visual frame of reference. And so Steve breaks out GPS and said, well, let's play around with this thing a little bit. It's before bedtime. And so we, walked away from camp, and he had supposedly locked on camp as a location. And as it turns out,
and so this is just before bedtime. You've left. You weren't planning on going for a hike, so I'm guessing you probably didn't have much with you.
We had nothing but our rifles with us. We were still in our clothes that we flew a commercial air out of Anchorage in. So jeans, hip boots, of course, which are required to get on a float plane, and light jackets, and that was it. So it was drizzling rain, and so do you want to pick up where I left off?
We just wanted to go for a short walk, and get kind of a picture of the land. And we were on this fairly good sized lake, and we start walking back in the timber. And, like Stan said, it was overcast and cloudy, and we couldn't see anything, and we couldn't, had no recollection of which way camp was. And all of a sudden, we tried using the GPS. Well, back then, when it first came out, if you were in the timber, they didn't work. And so we said, well, let's just head back to camp. And we started walking. And
well, I think it should be noted, we were sitting on a log, and it was decided it was time to go back to camp. And we got up and we both walked different directions. that was the first hint that maybe our mental GPSs weren't exactly dialed in the same. And then Steve said, well, we got this thing, let's try it out. So he pushed back to camp and took off in the direction that the arrow described. And after about, 15 minutes or so of walking, the arrow just goes boing, 90 degrees off the other direction. Well, the immediate thought was that we had passed camp for some reason. So we turned off and took off that way.
Oh my goodness.
And we walked around in circles basically for, another hour until it got dark. Yeah. And so we said, let's just crawl under this tree, and we'll get up first thing in the morning and see what we can do. And because we didn't want to just beat around in the dark. And so we crawled under a spruce tree, which kept us a little dry. And that's where we slept. But it was a cold, chilly night.
Yeah. Is this the story of the famous Dillingham pillow?
That would be the story. Yes.
I know this, but why don't you share what the heck is the Dillingham pillow?
Well, it basically is a root of a tree that we were sleeping on. It inspired the poem that is in the book, and I wrote that poem. Hadn't told Steve anything about it. I wrote the poem and I gave it to him, stapled to this chunk of firewood for Christmas.
Oh my gosh. I would read it, but it's a pretty long poem, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, it's a page or so, a couple, there are two stanzas.
Yeah, here we go. So, so the next morning, were you able to find your way back easily enough?
Yeah. Took us 30, 40 minutes, and we were back on the lake, and, yeah,
there was a technique for that when you're lost. For those people that don't know, once we finally got over the pride, right, and realized that, well, perhaps we should admit that we're lost. Once we did that, then Steve pulled out, he did have some surveyor's tape in his pocket, and he tied off, to a branch of a tree and said, okay, this is the point at which we acknowledge we are lost. And then we took off one direction 100 yards, tied off another surveyor's tape, another 100 yards, tied off, still didn't see the lake, came back and went 90 degrees the other direction. And actually, we were on the third leg of that when it just got too dark to see the tape anymore. So that's when we spent the night. But then on the fourth leg of that, we found the lake the next morning. So those people that ever get lost, there are some techniques you can use to enhance your chances.
Yeah, learn how to use a GPS.
That might be one too.
The hard part is I imagine, so you did a lot of your hiking or all of it was in twilight, right? Where the light is flat, it's harder to tell direction, I suppose, and all of that. I don't know. I'm glad you guys made it back. Glad you didn't now, and by that time, by the way, so the airplane just drops you off and takes off, right?
Yes.
When was the airplane due to pick you up?
Not for a week.
Yeah. So if you guys were lost, it would have been at least a week before anyone had any clue that you guys were lost. Because I'm guessing you also didn't have a satellite phone; those weren't invented at the time.
Exactly. That's no other means of communication. We would have been stuck for a week for sure before anybody thought about looking for us.
Yeah. All right. So you guys have had some great success hunting big game. So what do you think is the biggest thing you guys have taken down?
Biggest as in largest animal?
I suppose, yes.
We got moose and we got buffalo. And
buffalo.
Yeah, there's a couple wild herds of American buffalo here in Alaska. And there's a couple stories of each in the book that are really, really neat.
Yeah, but yeah, the Alaska Yukon moose, of course, is the largest of the deer family and of the moose family. And we've taken some magnificent animals. I mean, 7 foot tall at the shoulders, 1,400, 1,500 pounds on the hoof, with huge antlers. And so that's probably some of the biggest animals, not the most challenging, but the biggest. And the buffalo, of course, are the northern wood bison that we got. Same thing. They're big, they're beautiful, and there's just not a thing on them you want to waste because they're totally impressive. They're great to eat. In fact, my desk chair at my home, the back half of the buffalo hide is draped over that. I sit on it every day. It's just wonderful.
Okay. Now I have a question. So Judy was on earlier. That's Stan. That's your wife, right? Okay.
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, what's the story Judy has heard the most? What's the hunting story she has heard the most and wants to hear the least? Does that make sense? There's probably some story that you've told over and over and over again. And Judy, I know you're watching. You can mute if you like. We give you permission. But there's got to be some story she's just sick of you telling.
Most of them, probably. She went with me, was with us on a moose hunt one time just to see what it was like. But I don't know that she has a particularly dreaded or hated story. That
must just because she's so sweet. She doesn't tell you which one.
She is pretty sweet. There's no question about that. I suppose that she's in the book. I would say it's probably the story that's not hunting but fishing. Now that you mention it, because there was a time in there where we went halibut fishing in Prince William Sound, and she and Steve.
Oh, wait, there's a comment.
Oh, here it is. That's the one. That's the one I was headed for right there.
I guess we're going to hear this story.
Well, It's about a 5 hour boat ride, 4.5, 5 hours over there. And on the way from Seward to with the western part of Prince William Sound, you'd pass a place called Johnstone Bay, which had a glacier that fed a stream. So we would stop in there and we would harvest ice that had been calved off of the stream, or calved off of the glacier and gone downstream into the ocean. And so we'd take a hammer, a chisel, or a screwdriver and chip off a bunch of iceberg ice to put into coolers to keep our fish cold, and then of course for cocktails in the evening. And so we had harvested the ice, and Judy said, well, she was thought she'd go down below and take a nap. So we, excuse me, actually she didn't take the nap till we got there. We got over to our place where we anchored up and put the lines down. So we have 3 rods in the water, and she decided then she'd take a nap. And so she's sound asleep, and I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, I guess, her rod starts bouncing, and Steve reaches over and grabs it, and of course reels in it. I think it was a 93-pound halibut, and nothing from below, right? And what was funny is that, when you get big halibut like that, you don't want them to flop around on the deck and tear stuff up, so we shoot them actually while they're in the water before we gaff them and bring them on board. And after this fish hit the deck and started flopping around, it still had some life left in it. She comes upstairs from below the deck and I caught a fish. I caught a fish. Well, it was on her rod, but she wasn't there. So Steve claimed it, and there's still an ongoing feud, as you can tell by the chat, as to whose fish it really was. We all got to eat it, but I kind of wondered, why the fish hitting the deck didn't. I mean, that woke her up.
But the gunshots
We'd already shot it. We'd already
Oh
shot
my
it
goodness.
twice. The gunshots didn't wake her up.
You got my shooter.
I have a related to loud noises. I have a story like that with my dad, but his also involved a picture of screwdriver, and that's why he didn't hear the loud noises. But I don't know what Judy's excuse was. Was this before or after the cocktails?
Way before.
Yep.
Oh, way before. Okay, so we don't even have that excuse. All right. Yeah. So, Steve, how about you? What's the story that you enjoy telling? If we were sitting in a bar, a tavern in Alaska, and we did or did not have a couple drinks, and we got to talking, what story would you share with me?
Probably Stan and I were moose hunting, and we had shot a moose, and we ended up taking that moose out to hang in a cooler, and we came back in and we decided to go over and sit close to where we had shot that moose, and because there was a really nice moose trail there, and we sat down, and we had made an agreement that if by chance a grizzly bear came into the moose kill, that I would get the first shot. And it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We're sitting down, and I see this white moving through the timber and the brush, and I said, Stan, there's a moose. And all of a sudden he came out just a little bit in the open. I said, no, it's a bear. And this really good sized grizzly came around the brush and was running right towards the gut pile of this moose. It jumps the gut pile because we figured if it came in, it would just stop there and start eating, legs and innards of this
Great kill
moose, and it didn't slow down. It was running full bore right to me.
Oh,
we were 40 yards away from the gut pile, and I had time enough to put my rifle up to my shoulder and pull the trigger and just lucky shot, hit him right through the left eye and came out the right side of his
Wow. Are you kidding me? On a moving target? And
on a moving target.
wow.
Running flat out at us. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Like literally running, not just
Yeah.
like trotting along.
No,
Oh
he was running hard and right towards me. I took the one shot and we walked it off. It was 19 yards from where I was sitting.
Oh my goodness. Stan, did you have your rifle on target too?
Oh yeah. In fact, I was wondering what was taking him so long to shoot, but I had all the slack out of my trigger, and when I heard the noise, I wasn't sure it wasn't my rifle that actually had fired. But it was a pretty impressive thing that Steve did such a good job with that animal. It stopped all forward momentum. It didn't roll. It just fell like a duck out of the sky and plowed into the ground.
Wow.
An amazing thing, and thank goodness, because they run about 35 miles an hour. So,
I was gonna say I wasn't thinking you guys were gonna get another crack at that. Are these
kind of a one and done thing, and thank God it went that way rather than the other way.
Are these both bolt action rifles?
Yes.
Yeah. And what kind of caliber do you use when you're expecting a grizzly?
Well, you never expect a grizzly. That's the real problem.
Right.
I shoot a 300 Weatherby when I'm hunting moose, and if you are hunting grizzlies, 300 Win, 300 Weatherby, that's what you normally carry.
338 Winchester Magnum for me. That's what I carry for my primary.
So you guys took down a giant moose and a grizzly within hours of each other, it sounds like.
Yep.
And the grizzly was coming for you too. So wow. Well, let me get back to this part and just remind everybody that Two Guys Hunting, Bullets, Bonds, and Memories from the Alaskan Wilderness is available right now on Amazon in Kindle and in paperback. And the Kindle is on a special $1.99. That is a short term. And in fact, if you're watching this on a replay and you go to look for it, it may be $9.99 at that point, still a steal. And then remember to please pick up a paperback copy as a gift for the hunter or fisherman or fisherwoman in your life, because they will absolutely appreciate it. So we really only have a couple minutes left here. And is there anything else that you guys would like to share? I mean, it sounds like you guys have had great success hunting for all these years. And that alone should be something that really draws attention, because, yeah, like you talk about, most people go out and they talk about their stories of getting skunked or the one that got away. What do you guys attribute your successes to?
Dogged determination and athleticism on his part. Back when he was in a lot better shape than he is now. He can still outwalk me, being 10 years older. And then I think I brought to the table a little patience and stability. There'd be times when Mr. Step and Fetch, it used to be his nickname. He'd take off walking and walk right past something that's laying down. So Dad taught me years ago to stop and look back on the trail, that an animal will watch you walk by and then stand up after you've left. And so I think it's just the chemistry of us together. And we got to a point where we didn't really even have to talk to communicate. We just automatically would know what the other guy would do based on the experiences we've had. So, once you find a partner like that, I think in hunting and probably a lot of other walks of life, but once you find a partner like that, it's pretty magical. It's a lot of fun.
Really incredible. Well, it's time for us to wrap up this episode, and thank you guys both for being on this live cast and for entrusting us also with your book. We're super excited to see how it does on Amazon today and in the future. Thank you so much. And Judy, I know you're watching out there. Thank you as well. So, all right. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to sign us off here. We're excited. Please go ahead and grab the book on Amazon and reach out to us if you've got an idea for a book that you'd be interested in. And there's Judy saying, good job, guys. All right. Terrific. Thank you so much. And take care and God bless.